The ballroom is for real family, my sister smirked, leaning in so only I could hear. Your seat is in the kitchen with the staff. I looked around at the grand venue, the crystal chandeliers, and the hundreds of guests enjoying the luxury I had secretly paid for. My mother looked away, pretending not to notice my humiliation. I didn't cause a scene. I just nodded, turned around, and walked out. But as my heels clicked against the marble floor, chairs began scraping behind me. One by one, table after table, the ballroom began to empty. My sister's smug smile shattered into pure horror as she screamed, "Where are you all going?" Follow my story until the end to find out what gave me the ultimate leverage over my family, and drop a comment with the city you're watching from so I can see how far my story has reached. My name is Allison Mercer, and at 38 years old, I had finally built a life I was proud of. After years of relentless hustle, late nights, and sacrifices, I had established myself as one of the city's top interior designers. To the outside world, I was successful, poised, and financially independent. But inside my family dynamic, none of that earned me an ounce of respect. To my mother, Evelyn, and my 26-year-old sister, Chloe, I was never a daughter or a sister to be celebrated. I was simply an unlimited bank account. Chloe was the golden child. She was glamorous, vain, and thoroughly spoiled. For years, she paraded around on social media, boasting about her lavish lifestyle, designer bags, and exotic vacations. What her followers didn't know, and what my mother helped her hide, was that Chloe didn't earn a single penny of that money. I was the invisible backbone holding our family together. While Chloe played the heiress, I quietly worked 70-hour weeks. I was the one paying off my mother's mounting credit card debts, covering Chloe's rent when her credit was denied, and funding the very lifestyle Chloe used to look down on me. I kept my mouth shut and paid the bills, foolishly believing that one day my loyalty and support would finally be rewarded with the love and basic respect I deserved. I was about to learn just how wrong I was. Everything escalated when Chloe announced her engagement to Julian, a man from an exceptionally wealthy old-money family. Julian's parents were high society figures who expected a grand, fairy tale wedding that matched their family's elevated reputation. There was only one massive problem. Chloe's family couldn't afford a fraction of it. Panic set in immediately. My mother and Chloe came to my apartment, tears in their eyes, begging me to save them from total social embarrassment. They pleaded for me to fund the luxury venue, the high-end catering, and the elaborate floral arrangements. "Allison, please!" My mother wept, grasping my hands with synthetic desperation. "This is Chloe's one chance at a brilliant life. You have the money. If you cover the $80,000 budget, we promise you'll be the guest of honor, sitting right beside us at the main family table." Against my better judgment, my protective instincts kicked in. I agreed to fund the entire affair. But having built a business from scratch, I wasn't completely naive. I insisted on handling every single vendor contract directly, making payments through my own corporate interior design account under the guise of securing commercial tax write-offs and trade discounts. Chloe and my mother happily agreed, eager to get their hands on the luxury venue without caring about the fine print. I personally signed contracts with the city's top caterer, the premier florist, the live orchestra, and the venue management. Every vendor knew me personally as the sole client, contract holder, and financial sponsor. I thought I was securing my sister's dream day while protecting my hard-earned money. In reality, I was setting up the ultimate trap without even knowing it. The day of the wedding arrived, bright and clear. I wore an elegant emerald silk gown, feeling a rare sense of pride. I had personally spent the last 3 months coordinating with vendors, refining the floral displays, and ensuring every single detail exceeded expectations for Julian's prominent family. When I entered the grand ballroom, the sight was breathtaking. The crystal chandeliers gleamed over exquisite floral centerpieces and silver place settings that my hard work had paid for. I walked toward the front of the room to find my seat at the main family table, right next to my mother and the bridal party, just as we had agreed. My heart sank. My name card wasn't there. I scanned the nearby head tables, thinking it was a minor mistake, but my name was nowhere in sight. Suddenly, Chloe gripped my arm tightly, her long acrylic nails digging into my skin as she pulled me out of the main room and into a dimly lit service hallway behind the kitchen. "What are you doing wandering around the main hall, Allison?" Chloe hissed, her voice dripping with venom. "I'm looking for my table," I said, trying to stay calm. "Where am I sitting?" Chloe scoffed, crossing her arms over her pristine white gown. "You're sitting at table 24 inside the side kitchen prep room. We need the main tables open for Julian's distinguished relatives and influential friends. Honestly, Allison, look at you. You just don't fit the aesthetic of our official family photos." I stared at her in total disbelief, turning to my mother, who had just stepped into the hallway. "Mom, tell me she's joking. I paid for this entire wedding." My mother avoided my eyes, casually adjusting Chloe's veil. "Don't be dramatic, Allison. Know your place, and just sit in the kitchen. Don't ruin your sister's special day over your fragile pride." A cold, deadly calm washed over me. The humiliation didn't make me cry or scream. Instead, it stripped away 22 years of self-deception in a single second. I looked at my mother and my sister, seeing them clearly for the first time. Opportunistic parasites who viewed me as nothing more than a bank account to be hidden away when the real guests arrived. "All right," I said quietly, my voice utterly devoid of emotion. "I understand." I turned on my heel and walked out of the service hallway, stepping back into the grand ballroom. I didn't look back at Chloe's smug face or my mother's dismissive sigh. I simply held my head high and began walking straight toward the double doors leading to the main lobby. As my heels clicked rhythmically against the polished marble floor, the caterer, who knew me well as a high-paying commercial client, saw me walking out with my evening clutch in hand. He frowned, immediately sensing something was wrong. Near the center of the room sat 2 tables of high-profile corporate clients and influential design partners who were attending the wedding solely because I had personally invited them. One of my biggest clients, Arthur, stood up. "Allison, is everything okay?" "I'm leaving," I said calmly, pausing briefly near his table. "I've been instructed that I don't fit the family aesthetic, so my seat is in the kitchen prep room." Gasps rippled across the surrounding tables. Arthur's face darkened with anger. "Absurd." He immediately grabbed his coat and motioned to his colleagues. "If the host of this event is being treated like staff, we're leaving." Chairs began scraping loudly against the floor. One by one, table after table, my clients and personal friends stood up to join me. The head caterer quickly whispered to the lead florist, realizing the actual contract holder and paying sponsor was walking out. Within moments, the entire staff froze, and the room began to fall apart in a domino effect of total solidarity. By the time I reached the grand glass double doors of the venue, nearly 40% of the ballroom was moving behind me. The sudden, chaotic scraping of chairs and the low rumble of dozens of prominent guests exiting prompted Chloe and my mother to race out into the main lobby, their faces pale with growing panic. "Allison, what on earth are you doing?" Chloe shrieked, her voice echoing off the high ceilings as she clutched her dress train. "Where is everyone going? Tell them to sit down right now." I turned around slowly, holding my ground near the valet counter. Julian's parents, along with several of their distinguished high society friends, followed the crowd out to see what was happening. "I'm simply honoring your wishes, Chloe," I said, my voice echoing clearly across the lobby. "You told me the ballroom was reserved for real family and that my place was in the kitchen. So I'm taking my leave." Julian's mother gasped, looking between Chloe and me in sheer horror. Is this true? Allison paid for this entire reception. Why would you speak to your own sister like that? Before Chloe could fabricate a lie, the lead caterer stepped forward, holding a digital tablet. Mrs. Mercer, as the primary contract holder and sole payer, if you are departing due to breach of host conduct and safety, our service policy dictates we cease operations immediately. Wait, what? My mother screamed, her voice cracking. Every vendor here, the catering, the luxury florals, the orchestra, even the security, is contracted under my company, I said coldly, looking Chloe dead in the eye. And since I am no longer a guest at the event I funded, I am officially canceling the service execution. Right in front of Julian's wealthy relatives, the waiters began packing away the vintage wine, the orchestra packed up their instruments, and the grand illusion of Chloe's high society life crumbled into complete ruin. The aftermath of that ruined reception sent shockwaves through our entire circle. Julian's parents were utterly mortified by the revelation that Chloe's family had lied about their status, exploited my generosity, and treated me like staff at an event I had fully financed. The very next day, Julian's family demanded a complete financial audit before moving forward with any official marriage registration, exposing every single lie, unpaid loan, and credit card debt Chloe had been hiding. Meanwhile, my phone turned into a war zone. My mother left dozens of hysterical voicemails, accusing me of destroying my sister's future and selfishly ruining what should have been the happiest day of Chloe's life. They demanded that I pay the $30,000 in cancellation penalties and venue fees that had accrued from the sudden shutdown. I didn't waste a single breath arguing. Instead, I handed everything over to my legal counsel. Because every vendor contract was under my corporate entity, I legally enforced the breach of conduct terms, successfully recovering over $50,000 of my initial payments while leaving the venue's default fees squarely on my mother and Chloe. Furthermore, I formally revoked my mother's access to my credit accounts, canceled the lease payment on Chloe's luxury vehicle, and cut off every financial pipeline I had maintained for them over the last decade. When Chloe tried to show up at my design firm to cause a scene and guilt-trip me into backing down, building security escorted her off the premises. Without my financial backing to prop up her fake high society persona, Chloe's relationship with Julian fractured beyond repair under the weight of her exposed deceit. For the first time in my life, I refused to play the martyr. 3 months after that unforgettable night, I officially relocated to a stunning penthouse apartment overlooking the harbor, a space I designed entirely for myself. My interior design firm flourished like never before, largely due to the overwhelming support and loyalty of clients like Arthur, who respected me even more for standing up for my dignity. Cutting ties with my toxic mother and sister was painful, but it brought a profound sense of peace I had never known. For 38 years, I believed my value was tied to how much I could give and how much mistreatment I could endure. I realized that setting firm boundaries isn't selfish. It is an act of self-respect. I was no longer the quiet martyr hiding in the background. I was the author of my own life. Now, I'm curious about you who listened to my story. Have you ever had to stand up to toxic family members who took you for granted? And how did you handle it? Let me know in the comments below.